So, um, was there a time where you felt obligated to make a choice that wasn't truly yours?
I'm going to say no. And
Okay.
I think even then, probably when I was younger and still now, I don't think I don't do that.
As children, we can't wait to grow up. We think that we'll have a steady paycheck, a plan of where we're going in terms of career, family, and goals, and we'll finally be able to do whatever we want to do. But then adulthood rolls around, and somewhere between student loans, family expectations, caregiving, career choices, and trying to keep your own sanity intact, you realize this is not what was advertised. Being a grown up is a bit like the Hunger Games, and may the odds ever be in your favor. In this episode, my dear friends Darius, Marjorie, and Tremayne talk with me about the first time we had to make a grown up decision that changed everything. The seasons where we may have chosen family over our own peace, or stayed in a role, relationship, or city because it felt like the right thing to do, even when it didn't feel right for us. We also get real about the tools nobody taught us we'd need as adults: setting boundaries, emotional budgets, and a new definition of success that has less to do with titles and money and more to do with feeling whole. You'll hear real stories, hard-won wisdom, and a reminder that while adulthood is sometimes exhausting, absurd, and may even feel like a daily fight to the finish, it's also survivable, and you don't have to navigate it alone. I'll start, and either one of you can jump in. And as you know, we're having a conversation. But when did you first realize that adulthood wasn't what it was advertised to be? I can give an example if you would like me to start.
Yeah, go for it.
So I remember when I graduated undergrad and I was going to law school and I was moving into my first apartment. And now, mind you, I didn't have a job but at working at uh, Banana Republic in undergrad, okay? And an internship that was paid, but still that went to the clothes that I then bought with my discount from Banana Republic. And my mom looked at me and she said, "You know that money that you got from graduation? That's going towards furnishing your apartment. And the sofa you will have is the sofa that we are giving you because we're buying new furniture, and we will buy your bed. And it will be a bed from Mattress Warehouse." And I was just devastated. I was like, but it's my first apartment. It's supposed to be. And that was the beginning of understanding what being a grown up was about. This vision of my Pottery Barn, our house apartment, which then ended up being the Mattress Warehouse, hand-me-downs, and Kmart. I learned the art of Kmart, some things from there, and IKEA.
I think for me is when I finished graduate school and moved to Maryland and I was offered my job, and I'll never forget the job. This was in 2001. They offered me $28,943.
Wow.
And my mom is like, you can move back home to North Carolina and make, that much money. But I said, you know what? I'm going to take a chance, take a risk, and I'm going to make this work. But it's like, okay, you put all this work in school, and then this is the pay that you get. Now, it was a job that I actually wanted, but that's when I realized that adulthood was going to be, what did y'all say earlier, the ghetto. I was like, this is going to be the ghetto.
Wow.
When I finished undergrad, even though I had a job, I was still living at home, so I don't think it felt real because I went back to my childhood bedroom in the
Mhm.
basement. Um, and you know, while I had a car and was paying for car insurance and paying for, a couple of bills, maybe cell phone bills, that was really the extent of it. It wasn't until I graduated law school and got an apartment on my own, but I'm like, oh, this is real. But honestly, paying the rent didn't do it for me. It was when I bought the condo that I was renting.
Mm-hmm.
I was maybe 28, I guess. It was
Mm-hmm.
taking out the mortgage and that responsibility. Oh, I have to do something for 30 years.
Yes.
So there was this, I celebrated like, oh, I bought, and I own this. This is mine. But I'm like, oh, but this is an obligation I signed for 30 years. And you think I would have felt that when I signed those loan papers for student loans? It
I
didn't.
was gonna say.
It didn't feel the same for student loans for some reason. It was signing the mortgage and like, because I felt like, oh, this is what you do when you're an adult. You buy something. And that's what made me feel like an adult for the first time.
Fair.
So I think mine would be the same. It was the mortgage and buying the condo before we got married or before I even knew him. And then I would have to go grocery shopping at my parents' house. So my dad would make sure my mother bought enough extra groceries and they would just put it in a different bag. And I would call and my dad would bring the bag of groceries out to my car.
Oh,
And that was
Oh,
pretty much,
wow.
yeah. That was pretty much how I grocery shopped for, I don't know, the first 6, 8, 10 months of having a mortgage. Mhm.
I definitely remember grocery shopping in my parents' basement for all the supplies. And when I actually had to buy like paper towels and toilet paper, was aghast at how much that stuff cost. It was like, yep, I will drive from DC to Annapolis to get paper towels. Gas wasn't quite what it costs now. Um, but that was totally the grocery shopping at parents' house for real. What is one grown-up decision that shaped your life? I know that we're all talking about mortgages. I didn't have a mortgage until I bought the house right before I got married to Eric. But what's one grown-up decision that shaped your life and how did it test you?
I think for me, it was actually moving to Maryland. I'm from North Carolina, and I was offered two jobs at two different institutions. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to take a step and go to a place where I certainly had cousins, relatives, and also friends, but I knew no one there. I mean, outside of, one first cousin and a friend, I really knew no one else. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this chance at 23 and go to this, state that to my family seems so far away. But that was really the biggest decision I think I made, and it was a grind. It was a risk. Um, but I figured I was like, I'll figure this out.
Yeah. I think that's part of making grown-up decisions when you just say, you know what, I'm going to figure this out, right? And you just make it work.
Everything is figure outable. It's not a word, but everything is figure outable.
And sometimes the figuring it out is realizing that maybe you can't do it, right? That's also part of it. But everything is figure outable. I like that.
um, at first I thought like making decision to go to graduate school, law school was like the first big decision because that I knew and it was a risk and a gamble. I didn't really know what the outcome of that would be, but I felt like it was something that you had to do.
Hmm.
I had to do something, and that was like one of those things that I'm supposed whomever told me, but I'm like I'm supposed to do this. Society, I guess. I don't know, blame it on society, but I'm supposed to do this. Um, but this it def it wasn't encouraged by family or friends. It was more of like everyone's doing something, and I need to figure out what's that something that I'm going to do that's going to, begin my adulthood. And for me, it was that sort of post undergrad. Again, I'd worked for a couple years, but like, all right, I need to do something that is going to truly make me an adult. So while the
Hmm.
mortgage was when I felt it, the decision was I gotta go to professional school. I gotta go to law school, and I'll figure it out. I had no idea. Um, And I tell people I made that decision to go to law school, how you should not make the decision. Just took the LSAT on a whim. And if I get into a good school, fate has told me this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's not how you should make really big decisions.
I don't know. I do sometimes think that things have a way of working themselves out. Well, I believe in fate and I believe that everything happens or doesn't for a reason. And I say that because, now looking back, I remember having some anxiety or having some second thoughts about going to law school and expressing those feelings to my parents and them telling me, well, if you don't go to law school now, the ways in which we would help you, we won't be able to. We're not going to because we can now sort of redirect those monetary contributions to whatever your sister chooses to do post graduation, right? So it was kind of like, I went straight from undergrad to law school. And the idea of like, well, I wouldn't know what to do without that help was sort of this thing that made me decide, okay, I'll go. Because having a gap year, as they call it now, that was not a thing. And it certainly wasn't. I also think that's a cultural thing. I think it's, of course, the Obama girls have had the opportunity to have gap years, but they're in a very different sort of situation than most of us. But I say all that to say, I do sort of believe that there's nothing necessarily wrong with making a decision on fate. And I say that because I thought I wanted to go to law school away. I was waitlisted on the school that I thought I really wanted to go to. Got into a school that was similarly ranked, um, and that was local. And so I ended up, despite not wanting to sort of come back to this area, I did come back to this area and went to law school. But the day that I was moving to my apartment that I thought was going to be furnished by Pottery Barn, I got the letter that said I was accepted to the school that I really wanted to go to that was away. And I had this moment of like, oh God, what do I do? I mean, I'm literally standing there behind the moving truck, ready to move into my new apartment. And I got the letter that I got into the school that I wanted to go to. And I remember my mom looking at me. She's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, we're here. There's a reason why I got into the one school and I'm on my way. And with all the things that happened subsequent to that, I do feel like there was a reason why I ended up making the choice to go where I went because there were a lot of things that happened for which, including I hated law school. And had I been away and hated it and all of those things, I probably would have come back home. And who knows what I would have come back home to do. Whereas I was here and I had a support system and people encouraging me and, you know, motivating me to keep it up and keep going. So that was helpful. So I say all that to say I do believe that sometimes you can make decisions based on fate. But here we are.
All right, so I didn't make a bad decision. Okay, got it.
No, you did not.
Darius, was it the same when you made the decision to go to graduate school? Was it as intentional and thoughtful, or did you feel like you had to, or
No, my senior year of undergrad, I got fired from a job where I was selling vinyl siding. And I was not meeting the quotas. And I was like, I'm graduating in 2 months anyway. I literally stormed out of the office.
I could see that whole thing playing out.
Oh yeah, I stormed out, but guess what? I left my water bottle, so I had to go back in to get my water bottle. But no, then I went and got a job at another telemarketing place. And so at this point, it's really April, graduating in May. And then I was offered a job at a place and I went for an orientation. And the second day, they said, oh, we're going to learn how to work with the kids when they go AWOL. And I'm like, well, what is AWOL? Like, what does that mean? So they told me what it was, and I was like, I need to go to my car. I'm not feeling well. And what AWOL really meant was you had to learn how to restrain the children when they were, acting out, or, it was a form of some sort of like, I want to say discipline, but I realized that was not the opportunity for me. So, May's approaching, graduation's approaching. You look around, all your other classmates are, having jobs. I'm like, what am I going to do? And so, I talked with an advisor, and they said, well, there's a graduate program here for adult and higher education. I think the application deadline is June 15th. You might want to look into it. Looked into it. I was like, this is perfect for me. And the chancellor at my alma mater was retiring that year. He was going to be teaching in that program. I'm like, this is perfect. I have a passion for this. It's higher education. The chancellor retires, is going to be teaching this program. Who better to learn from? I literally, similar to yourself, sat down for the GRE on a random Saturday, got my letter of admissions, and I was like, okay, let's go. And I actually started um, my first graduate class that summer because they had what they call intercession, which was a course you could take for 2 weeks. And guess who was teaching that course? The retired chancellor. I guess I figured it out along the way, but no, it was not intentional for me in my graduate pursuit, especially out of, undergrad now.
So I was trying to think of an adult decision, and I don't really think I have one. Um, like, so I guess the graduate school thing is similar 'cause I finished undergrad in December and I didn't have a job lined up and I wasn't really sure honestly, I don't think I was really sure what I was going to do. I had interned at GM, and so I came home and I was going to study for the GRE. So somehow I saw that Wayne State University in Detroit did not require the GRE.
Ah.
And I was like, oh, I guess I should go there, huh? Plus, I ended up going there and like my middle sister was buying a house. So I was going to live with her. And then GM was like, oh, if you're going to grad school here, you can just intern here in the summer.
Mhm.
So I interned there in the summer. Then they offered me a job. Like they were going to let me work like a super summer. So I think
Okay.
maybe like May 1st to September 31st, or something like that. And then they were
Right.
like, well, you want to just work here forever? And I was like, okay. And then they started paying for me to go to grad school. But I do think that had I not gone to grad school then, I don't know that I ever would have.
Was there a time where you felt obligated to make a choice that wasn't truly yours?
I'm going to say no. And
Okay.
I think even then, probably when I was younger and still now, I don't think I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever, did that. And I'm trying to even think back. Even when it was applying to college, like I did not want to go to places that, people were recommending that I go. And my brother calls me an asshole for this because I really only do what I want to do. Like when it comes to like
Mm.
things in my life. I mean, so to some that might seem, sound selfish, but if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. So I don't think I think every decision I made, I think I made it on my own.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to think of an example as well, and it's challenging for me. I think my approach to life is just a little bit different in that I sort of let life happen
Mm-hmm.
and just deal with what happens, good or bad. So sometimes decisions are made for me, and I just roll with the punches. And, I'll figure life out when that is. The sheer fact of taking the LSAT on a whim and seeing what law school you get into is not how life should be done. But again, whatever space I was in was, oh, don't think too hard about it. Let some other let the forces of the universe sort of make that decision for you. And that way you don't have to do the hard work of making adult decisions.
Mm.
Letting sort of fate take its course.
I'm thinking of Top Gun Maverick when he says, "Don't think, just do."
Just do.
And that sounds like sort of where you were in that space. I think the adult decision that I made was law school. I there were two occasions on which I questioned whether or not I should do it. The first I told you all about. The second was after having finished my last exam of the first semester of law school. And I called my parents and I told them that I wasn't going back. Oh, I said, I finished my last law school exam. And they were like, oh, congratulations. You finished your first semester. I was like, no, no, no. I finished my last law school exam. I'm not going back. And you know, it was a lot of back and forth. It was, let's go to brunch and talk about it. And basically, at the end of the day, it was kind of like, we are not going to just support you to live. Like the things that we're helping you, like helping you with your rent, all the things, the bills, whatever, you're going to need to get a job. Like we're not just going to pay for you to live. And in my infinite wisdom of having worked at Banana Republic, I was like, well, I can get a job, no problem. And then I tried to get a job that could pay the bills that I had. And yeah, that wasn't going to happen. So I ended up staying in law school. And as I mentioned before, I hated it. But I did make the most of the experience. But that was definitely a decision that was not truly mine. And there are times throughout my career that I have thought if I had just done some of the other things that I was really interested in and or passionate about, it might have been very different. But I think everything happens or doesn't for a reason, and there's a reason why I ended up coming down this path. So
Hallelujah.
here we are.
There you go.
Um, Darius, this is probably for you, but for anybody else in terms of having made moves. Have you ever moved back home or made a sacrifice out of love or duty, and how did it reshape you?
Ooh. I did move back home after I resigned my job that I was at for 14 years. So a job I always wanted back home came open. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna apply. And so I applied when I would go back home, I would not have cell phone service. I mean, that's
Mm,
just how rural my you all have been. That's just how rural my hometown is. The day I interviewed, my phone was working the entire time, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is
it's
a
a
universe thing.
sign.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a sign saying that this actually might work. And so when I interviewed, I actually called and they offered me the job because I'd already listed my references and they moved very quickly. And I was like, okay, we negotiated, salary, all this. And so I was like, okay, bam, let's go. So I started that job in January of 2020. So, but I
Mm,
don't know if I did it out of, like I think you said sacrifice or to take care of. I don't. I initially I did not do it that way. Now we all know what happened, in March of 2020. And so while it was a job I always wanted, looking back over it, my mom is diabetic, and so my mom is a social butterfly. Like she will just. I mean, she's retired, but she still goes to work. Like, I mean, she still does that. I mean, that's just what I think, charges her and recharges her. So I say looking back, it was not necessarily a sacrifice. I think it was an assignment. Now, it was a lot to have to deal with, to go back home and, live with your loving mother. And then my dad at the time, was discovered that he had some health challenges that he had to deal with. But I don't know if I saw it as sacrifice. I think it was, I think it was the perfect timing. I think it was something I needed to do at that time in my life. I don't know if I knew, but I needed that. But to, go back home and, have my mom cook for me every single night, to be able to see my parents, when my dad was living, to be able to see them as often as I wanted to. And, to have my mom cook, to have my dad, call me baby boy or my nickname that only a few people know. But yeah, I mean, so moving back home, it was great. I mean, it was a sacrifice, I would say, to go from a larger city to a place where, I tell people now in Philadelphia, there are probably more people in my on a maybe 3 blocks in Philly than there are in my hometown. So that was a sacrifice to, you know, um, be able to enjoy a nice sit down dinner at a nice restaurant. So it was sacrifice in terms of not having some of the accommodations or I wouldn't say luxuries, but just things I could take advantage of in a larger city.
yeah. How do you think it shaped you, Darius? Like you said that, you know, You were able to do some things that you got the job that you had always wanted. You were able to spend the time with your parents. You realized the differences in terms of what you had access to in a larger environment versus being in a more rural. How do you think that experience shaped you?
Um, so I think what it shaped me and what I learned from is that I really can get whatever I ask for.
Mm,
And I had, I wanted that role. I mean, I finished grad school in 2001, and that was in what, 2019, I was on for that job. So all those years later, you can get what you ask for. Certainly, there's some work, that has to be, done with that. But I think what I learned from that experience getting the job was that I really can get whatever I want. And,
hmm
with work, with faith, with my own resilience. So, I mean, I think since then I was like, you know what? Okay, I can get what I want. If I work hard and um, continue to ask for things and to continue to work for things, it'll all work out. And
Yeah.
yes, there will be some stumps. I mean, some stumbles along the way, but what did Aaliyah say? Get yourself up and try again. Dust yourself off and try again. Sorry.
Yes. How do you define success differently now compared to your younger self?
My younger self would have been all about the dollars.
Hmm
Success is about having a certain paycheck and ability to pay your bills. Um, where now I think I truly bring in this sense of internal happiness that I think needs to be a part of it. And so that's being happy, obviously happy professionally, and that may come from a job that doesn't pay as many dollars as you would like. Um, but also just being happy with how your life is, how your family is, sort of who is in and out of your life. Like just being happy that way is how I think about success now. So being able to pay my bills, I'm thankful for that, but being able to pay my bills, but also have a family, I think is what makes me successful.
hmm
So I feel that success professionally, I've set aside so that I can have success in my personal life.
mm
So I don't think I have both. Um, I will say that I feel that I've had jobs, not careers,
Okay.
but I think that I've am raising two great humans. I have kept a marriage together. I have buried parents and been there for friends and family. So I feel like my success is not seen at all professionally. It's all
Mm-hmm.
outside of work.
hmm
And that's a part of the sacrifice.
Yeah. Marjorie, you hit a couple of different really interesting points. The fact that there's having a job and then there's having a career, and those are two very different things. And you also touched on um, that, you know, I remember this book that somebody gave me. I can't remember if it was when I graduated from undergrad or law school, but it was Maria Shriver's book, You Can Have It All. And like then the subtitle was, but not all at once.
At the same. Yep.
And I do think that there's something to be said for sort of choosing where your success is, because it's what's most important to you. Um, and I would be disingenuous if I said that like money wasn't important to me. It is because it affords you a certain amount of freedom that I want. To me, success is freedom. And freedom can look different in a lot of different ways. And I feel like I've achieved a certain amount of success because I have certain freedoms, but I do also have in the back of my mind, okay, but I got to maintain this freedom. So how am I going to do that? Um, but I do agree 1000% that sometimes you touched on the fact that like success looks different in different ways. You can be successful in one area, but it's usually at the sacrifice of something else.
Is this a lesson that you only learn when you are 40? Are there people who, come out of undergrad sort of knowing that? Or is it something like, does life have to start
I
lifing?
think you have to live
I
life.
think so.
Yeah,
I don't think it matters the age. But I think it mattered, like the experiences have to happen.
Yeah.
So prayerfully, like I don't know that I would have been able to survive these experiences at 25. Like
Mm-hmm.
that would have ended me. There's no way.
Completely
Mm-hmm.
disillusioned.
Yeah.
Because I
So
think of the things that brought me to my knees when I was in my 20s, and I'm like, really?
that's just a random Tuesday.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, I think you have to live life to come to these, and it doesn't, I'm not saying like you have to live this hard life. I certainly have not lived a hard life, nor am I interested in living a hard life. But I think it's getting out there and exposing yourself to things is what teaches you these
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
lessons.
I remember like just older women who would just have such a calm response to situations.
Mhm.
Like Walt's aunt, we were we were living in the condo in Michigan and we wanted to buy a house and we were trying to figure out and blah blah blah. And she just very calmly said, "Oh baby, it'll happen."
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And just like didn't didn't add more to it, didn't do anything. She just kind of said it and kept on going. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And like I hope and I feel I am getting closer to being that type of person where I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. Or
Mm-hmm.
it'll this, or just blah, blah, blah. But it is like the life experiences that teach you either it's going to work out or it's just not that big of a deal.
In the end, everything will be fine. And if it's not fine, it's not the end.
Mm. Okay. Oh, yes.
And I say that multiple times a day. But,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just, you know, life is going to happen, but and I also feel like what's meant for me will find me.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Marjorie mentioned, older Black women. And going back to your question earlier, Key, about success, I really do think, like, literally just waking up
Mm.
every single day is a win. And just this week, I'm at my job. We have this lady. She changes her hair like probably every week. I mean, older Black woman. I call her Rapunzel because some days it's like all the way down her back. And so this week she had like this long, like blonde pony. No, not blonde, like a strawberry blonde like ponytail. I was like, "Hey, Rapunzel." So she said, "How are you?" And I really hesitated for a while, and I was like, And she said, "You are simply wonderful."
Mm.
And I said, "You know what?" I said, "Thank you for that." And to have her like see me think of something else that was not positive or optimistic, whether it was true or not, if I was having a bad week, but her two words were, "You are simply wonderful." And I said, "You know what? Thank you so much." And so I am simply wonderful, and we all are. I mean, it's a shift in the mindset. So I think going back to Marjorie, it's like in the midst of everything that we have going on, like how do you get this power, if you will, and calm? I think was the word Marjorie said. How do you get this calm to be able to arrive to inspire others to say you are simply wonderful? You're still here to figure things out. So, I mean, it's not the end. So, I think just waking up is just success to me. And I want to continue to be successful.
Yes, yes. I want us to all continue to be successful in the ways that are important to us, right? In the
Absolutely.
ways that are important, because I think that so often we are beholden to other people's expectations of things as opposed to like what we want. And I think again, it's as you get older, realizing that like this is truly your life to live the way you wish to live it. And there have been so many moments lately where I'll think about things like, that my mom would tell me, or the way she would react to things when we talk about like this calm. And I think back to some of the times where I was all hyper and like, oh, mom, blah, 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 blah. And she would just be like, Kia, calm down. It's not that serious. And I would be mad, and that would make me madder, right? To tell me to calm down. And now I look back at it and I'm like, man, was I a basket case? Like that was really not that serious, you know? And then there are times now where I think about things that my mom told me and I'm like, I'm the age she was when she told me this. What tools or resources did you need in adulthood that nobody taught you about?
I think things of being a wife.
Ooh, good. Being a
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah,
Truly
being a
being a
partner.
partner.
Yeah, yeah. Um, like I don't think my parents taught me how to be a parent, but it was easier. Like their intention was clear.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like how they did it was different, but the intention was clear. So I was able to, and sometimes to a fault, do that. But I think the partner thing, just like the struggle with like what the church says I should how I should show up, and then like what
The
we
reality of how we show up.
and that, and even like as a Black female, like
Mm-hmm.
you know what what you were raised to do or not to do, just as yeah, just like the submission, and not deciding that submission is a negative word, and just like all of those things. But I think like the life partnering, nobody, I was ill equipped. um Nobody gave me a book.
Like,
Was it you don't think your parents, while they may not have sat you down and said A, B, and C, they showed you, I guess, in their relationship with each other. So they modeled for you, I guess, right?
So what I took from what I saw from my parents is like it was a very traditional marriage where my father made the majority of the money, paid all the bills. I remember telling myself at like 14, I will never have more children than I can support on my own.
Mm,
wow.
If my husband, their father leaves, it will just be an emotional issue. It will not be financial.
mm,
Mm.
So
Mm.
what I guess like what I mirrored, what I learned from their marriage. My father was not like mean or awful, nothing negative, nothing, none of those like things where like
Harold
you
was
truly,
lovely.
yeah, where I truly needed therapy, nothing like that,
mm,
just the normal you need therapy type stuff. But like I I just I didn't really, I didn't see them having financial conversations. um like we have a weekly family meeting just trying to figure out the business of the family and what's going to happen that week. My mother was the one running me around everywhere. My father went to work and he
mm,
came home. If he was not at work, at the barbershop, or at church, the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store did not know that they could sell my father groceries. Like, so I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't, there were just things I didn't know,
Yeah.
or how it looked, or what it was supposed to be. I didn't.
mm,
I so I just grew up with a single parent, and while I was able to see how she was in relationship with my father for a little bit and then someone else for a little bit, I don't think I ever saw how that was. And so I don't know where the expression comes from, but 90s R&B I think ruined me
You say that all the time, Tremayne.
Ow.
because I think I had an expectation of how not only 90s R&B, but also television, I think ruined me in how I think I'm supposed to be in relationship with someone, how we're supposed to navigate life together in partnership, how we're supposed to have a family. Like I was all up into what the lyrics were saying, and this is
Mm,
how love and life is going to be, sort of beyond the lust aspect, but the actual sort of love and being in relationship with someone. I I let media sort of influence what and how that was supposed to be because I don't think I saw a model of it.
that sounds very dreamy, but I can totally see that. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I I would agree with the partnership piece, in that I don't, my parents will in December will be married 50 years. And what I saw was staying committed to somebody. what I don't think I saw, and I don't think this is any particular failing of my parents, but I think it's it's just the nature of relationships that every relationship is very different. And so yes, I've seen the commitment to staying with somebody, but how do you make that commitment work?
Mm,
How do you overlook the the things that under different circumstances you'd be like, oh hell no, I'm not dealing with this, right?
hmm
But you're committed to this person till death us do part, right? And like, and I'm not talking about things like violence or anything like that, but just the things that are like literally for 20 years, you have never cleaned a crumb off of the countertop. And that drives me crazy. You know what I mean? And like, why do I have to keep enduring that just
mm,
because? In any other circumstance, if someone continued to do something that they know annoys you, you would be like, well, you have told me who you are.
hmm
My priority is not of significance to you, deuces. But yet I married this person, so I have to stay with them forever. You know what I mean? And I know that's a trite thing, but it is those little things that over the course of years and decades with someone that really do make you go, WTF?
or or even learning to, because I completely agree with the commitment that I did learn that from my parents, that they were choosing every day to stay together when they did not have to, and to care for their family.
Correct.
But also I viewed arguing as a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I am certain I am not teaching my daughters how to do this any better, because at my big age, I still don't know how to do it. But like how to, like, so those crumbs annoy you. How do I lovingly say, this is annoying me, so that it gets off me and I'm moving on?
Right.
Because I can hold a grudge from 1983. It's still in there.
Oh, I am Petty Betty. I'm president of the Petty Club. All the things.
it
So,
it
yeah.
it, it is in there, and to let it go, and not just look over it or ignore it for a moment, but to truly like convey it in a way where it's received, and move on. And
Mhm.
I don't, I mean, there are a few things that Walter and I have, I think, navigated better at 20 something years, but there's still a ton of other little things like that if I could do better, I would teach the girls how to. This is how you constructively have these types of conversations.
mm,
Mhm.
And I
Therapy.
don't know how to do it.
Therapy will do it. I mean, because I
Right.
agree. I did not learn constructive arguing either, right? It was like, I am making my point. You are going, there is right and there is wrong. And it was like, that's what it was. And it wasn't until someone conceded that the argument was over. And the person didn't really genuinely want to concede, but they just didn't want to argue anymore.
mm,
And I will say that that has been something that in all relationships, the argument is if you don't concede, this is the end, right? And I had to learn that just because I argue with you doesn't mean that if you don't see it my way, then we're done. Like
mm,
it's, and no one teaches you that. And again, I don't think that's any shortcoming of my parents. It's just that I don't think anybody teaches us that. And the other piece that I don't think that I was prepared for was when you are in this relationship without children.
mm,
And I say that because I think that in these long-term, lifelong relationships, when you have children, there is something that keeps you from saying, this is it, right?
It's a
And
good
and
distraction.
it can be a distraction, but it's also a tie that binds.
Yes,
And
yes.
when you don't have that, what's your tie when you are tired of 20 years of crumbs?
okay, Dr. Robin Crumbs. That's a, you know, as a child of divorce, my parents divorced when I was what, in the 10th grade? And I think, not I think, my dad remarried when I was in the 11th grade. So,
Oh.
yeah. Oh, I think, if you, I don't know what data shows, but I think probably most men remarry. I think,
Hmm.
men just need someone around, I think, especially if they're a more traditional man. Like, my stepmom would cook every morning for breakfast, and like your plates on the my dad was retired, but the plates there. But this is why I applaud people who actually do venture into anything we were talking earlier about, mortgages and loans. That is a commitment. You're like 30 years, but I think witnessing my parents divorce after being married for what, 28 years, I'm like, if this could happen after
Mm.
so long, like it could happen, to me. And so, I have an older brother and a younger sister, both were married, but I'm like, I don't want to. I mean, I've dabbled, but I've not been brave enough yet to enter into that type of, commitment. Whether it's a spouse or whether it's something like, what, I'm signing this mortgage for 30 years, like, uh-oh, even though, I was saying earlier about, making decisions that I want to, but there's still in the back of my mind, something could go wrong, something could happen here, what if? And so, like, as the middle kid, on my parents' anniversary, remember that you can make like microwave cakes? I used to like wake up on anniversaries and make cakes for my parents and like write little poems and buy gifts. And I'm telling my brother and my sister, like, you're gonna pay me back for this. My brother's like, yeah, my sister's going along with whatever he says. But like I was really like doing those types of things because you talking about modeling, I was able to see that. But I think as I got older and, started to see them like, venture apart, I think I did those things even more because I'm like, I can be the one to keep
To
them
keep them
together.
together.
And I was like, you know what? At some point, I was like, mm-mm, it's just let it go.
What has the divorce or a product of divorce, how has that shaped your behaviors as an adult?
That's a great question. I think it's made me do what I want to do.
Mm.
I think I realized that, you really just have to do what's best for you. And I'm probably coming from that from my mom's point of view. Like to say, you know what? Okay, like I was with this man for 20, like, well, they were high school sweethearts, married for 28
Mm.
years, like, and I was with this dude, and now this, like, whoa. But I do couple that with in terms of how I grew up. And we talked earlier about me moving back home, and I learned more about my parents by just um, listening. I mean, there will be days I would go to my dad's house and just listen and just hit record.
You have some priceless moments recorded that we all have been able to witness.
Listen, and I'm glad I still have them. But I had to look back, at both of their how they grew up. My mom has both grew up with both of her parents in a what, 3 or 4 room house with 7 siblings.
Mm.
My dad grew up with his aunt and uncle and his younger brother, primarily in a 2-story house with what, 4 bedrooms with like 100+ acres of land around it that his family owned. Even though they farmed, it was a very different lived experience. So, when I resigned my job that I took moving back home, my mom was disposition was like, "What the f are you doing?" Like, what? Where my dad's position was more like, "F it." But even in that mindset, I realized you all grew up different. Like you grew up in very, different, environments where my mom was like, they were more, didn't the resources was not as, plentiful as my dad was. So saying that to say, I think how the divorce and even how they live their lives shaped me and continues to shape me. I think I'm transitioning more into or have transitioned more into my dad's mindset of like, F it. Like, and what F it really means is what we were saying earlier. You'll figure it out. I think early on, I probably lived a more cautious and or calculated life, where now I'm like, you know what? Okay, like I've done this, and I'm still here. I was out of work for 8 months. I never thought I would do that. Like, what in the world? But
Hmm.
hey, look, I'm still here and I made it. But I think that attitude of, F it, like you'll be all right. Go ahead and do it. Why not? And so you would think sometimes that that might be an attitude when we're younger. for some people, but I think for me, that's where I am now. And so I think while their lived experiences, seeing that growing up, but then to see them in a different space and in their life as older adults, I was like, you know what? Okay. Now,
Mm.
I still haven't ventured into a committed partnership or relationship. Um, I do think I'm a person that's really meant to, enjoy life, but, do things, ride this ride
Your
by
way.
myself. Yeah, my way. And I'll have some fun along the way, certainly.
Oh, we know. This segs really nicely into my next question is how do you live your dreams in spite of the pressures of life, work, and family? And Darius, it sounds to me like you are very intentional about living your life the way you intend to live it, as opposed to how others do that. But do you ever feel the pressures to do that something different, and how do you navigate that?
I think the pressures to do something like is on myself. Like I was having a conversation
Mm,
earlier. I am the king of overthinking. Like I will like overthink it, and that's because I want to do it well. Like I did my performance review at work this week, and my boss said, she said the one thing about you, she said, we can have phenomenal events. She said, but you always come to me and say, what can we do to do better?
mm,
But she then came back and said, I want you to celebrate what you just did.
yeah.
So I've got to stop overthinking, if that makes sense. So any of those limitations are the ones that I put on myself.
Mhm.
I've got to get out of my own way. Yeah.
Okay, what advice would you give to someone realizing that growing up is indeed like the Hunger Games? Because sometimes it is just about survival, as we have talked. Um, but it is survivable.
So my godson has just graduated undergrad and has begun a graduate program. The North Carolina Agriculture
Oh,
and
God, here we go.
Technical State University.
There you go, Aggie Pride.
I think I got that right. Yes. But I felt like when he was in high school, I was doing all this talking about when you're
Mhm.
growing up, when you're adult. Um, a lot less of that has happened because I've realized he just needs to figure stuff out.
Hmm.
Mhm.
The words that I say don't mean anything to us. Is he Gen Z, I guess? And not to make it a generational thing, but they themselves, like, they just need to they want to figure it out. And so I think I've learned to drop little small pieces of nuggets, but sitting down and saying, you need to do it this way. I think the only thing I've told him is like, please go make some mistakes, just don't make life-changing mistakes.
That's exactly what my mom used to tell me. You're gonna make mistakes, just don't make any that are gonna sort of alter the course of your life.
And everything else you'll figure out. And so I've
Yeah.
stopped freaking out about, oh my God, he doesn't have an apartment yet. Like, and he did, he figured it out.
I would probably use the phrase that it's what or it's a long quote, but I think it's been more popularized by Brene Brown. But it's a Theodore Roosevelt quote that says, like, it's not the critic who counts. Like
Mm,
it's the person who's actually doing it. And so, I was talking with someone today, and sometimes that person is you. And
mm,
you've got to figure out, like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to this. I'm going to do exactly what I feel convicted to do. And if you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe that person was right, but you at least did what you felt was the best thing for you, not even the right thing, the best thing for you to do, in that moment. So, certainly, seek counsel, but we have to live with the decisions that we make. And if you don't figure it out, guess what? Get back in the ring again.
yeah.
Dust yourself off. Yeah, I got it.
And try again.
You better bring it full circle, open it and close it.
I
Okay.
love
Oh
it.
no,
I
I don't
love
want I
it.
don't want any people myself, any, like what Aaliyah fans coming and saying, you know the lyrics now.
Do you have a one word in which you would use to describe adulthood?
I'm gonna say phases. Can I explain why I would say that? I mean, can we explain
Sure, sure.
and when we were all answering that last question, I was really sitting there thinking like, imagine if you asked that question to like an 80-year-old.
Mm,
And we're what, in our 40s, early 50s, like they would say, baby, you are just getting started. And so I say it's phases because, to an 80 or 90-year-old, it's like, I've lived so much, I've done so much, and here's what I did at this space, here's what I did
Mm-hmm.
then. And so, I mean, I think phases because what seems like it might be happy times, stressful times, strenuous, a shit show. It's sometimes you're really just getting started in that phase. Like Marjorie, once those 6 months are over, that's a new phase for you.
Yeah.
I want you out in these streets living your best life. I'm gonna drive from Philly and do another, happy hour at Kia's house. Won't be no kids this time, so forget all of the,
Absolutely.
multiple personalities.
Absolutely.
But that is it's a new phase, and yes, it can still be a shit show. It can still be,
It'll be a
all those
different kind
things.
of shit
It's gonna be
show.
another type of shit show. Maybe one that'll have you go viral.
I'm here for it. I think I would say a journey. Life is a journey. And I think in journeys, you learn a lot of things along the way. And sometimes you reach the intended destination, and sometimes you reach your intended destination. But sometimes at the end, I think we reach the destination that was intended for us, which may be very different from what you thought was your intended destination. And with that, I want to thank you for spending this time with us. The Invisibles is a production made in collaboration between IC Creative LLC and the Amaya Group. Executive producer, Dr. Christopher Chauncey Watson. Editing by Mark Ferg. Original music by Judah Mapson. And our deepest thanks to our incredible guests for showing up with honesty, vulnerability, and truth. Your voices are the heart of this podcast. Most importantly, thank you, our listeners, for pressing play, for listening deeply, and for allowing space for these conversations to land. This podcast exists because so many of us are navigating life, work, identity, and change while feeling unseen, and none of us should have to do that alone. In our next episode, we're talking about perimenopause and menopause, the body changes nobody fully explains, the symptoms that catch you off guard, and the "wait, is this normal?" moments that so many women experience in silence. We're unpacking how this season of life, or phase, can impact confidence, relationships, and identity, and why these conversations deserve to be out loud, honest, and shame-free. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share it with the people in your network, or just share it with someone who might need to hear it. Help us grow the Invisibles podcast community, and be sure to follow the Invisibles on Instagram for reflections, resources, and behind-the-scenes conversations that continue between episodes. You can find us at _Invisibles_podcast. Until next time, keep listening, keep asking the hard questions, and remember, you are not invisible.